And on three, 1, 2, 3.
Thank you. Good evening. Welcome. We've already opened the meeting before going into executive session. Now we're reconvening an open session. Per Governor Baker's order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, the public will not be allowed to physically access this school committee meeting. Members of the public can access the meeting via Montague Community Television broadcast. The live streaming will start shortly. And just as a reminder, if anyone in the community would like to join us in our Zoom audience, all of our agendas while we're remote will have at the very beginning, we'll have the links in order for people to join us if they'd like to, and they can also indicate if they'd like to participate in public participation. That's available as well. We will be live streaming, but we're also making a recording of the meeting that will be available on MCTV and the Gill-Montague Regional School District website. This is the time for public participation policy BEDH, which has been reinstated to hold public participation remotely, but we have not had anyone indicate this evening that they would like to participate. And the audience is certainly welcome to be here with us. Please just remember to keep your video and your microphone off while you're in the audience. That would be helpful. Thank you. Brian, important events?
One of the things that I just wanted to make note of, you notice in your packet that there's a letter from high school assistant principal Tom Gaffigan. I just wanted to say that I feel very fortunate to have had the pleasure of working with Mr. Gaffigan, even if it was only for one kooky year. Someone who has an exceptional work ethic, his kindness, caring, and dedication to support students and families from across the region over the past 3 decades has allowed Tom to positively influence countless lives of so many area youth. And I wish Mr. Gaffigan all the best as he wraps up his last school year with us and moves on to a well-deserved retirement. But I'm sure that we'll pull Tom into a meeting a little bit later as the school year is wrapping up, and wish him well.
That would be great. Thank you.
So the Pandemic Response Advisory Committee will meet tomorrow. There's some new guidance that just came out today from DESE that we're going to want to review as a group. And we meet tomorrow at 4:15. The next Gill School Council meeting is planned for Wednesday, tomorrow, April 28th as well, along with the Friends of Sheffield meeting. Gill School Council is at 6:15, and Friends of Sheffield is tomorrow at 4:45. With the next Friends of Sheffield meeting also posted for May 19th, also at 4:45. The Spruce Up Gill Day was canceled and is tentatively scheduled Sunday, May 2nd from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. Principal DeJarlis will stay in touch with families and staff in her community in case weather results in them changing that day. I had left this off of the agenda, but added in that next Wednesday, May 5th, is a district early release day for professional development. And the next Friends of Hillcrest meeting is planned for Monday, May 10th at 5 p.m.
Thank you. And our student council representative this evening is, I believe, Haley. Hi, Haley.
Yes. Hi. So I have a few things. I'll start off, and then our own council. We wanted to welcome students back from April break. So on Sunday we came and drew with sidewalk chalk and made little drawings and put out some balloons just to get everyone's spirits up after an April break, and people are coming back full time now. And then I have a few things for the regional level. We'll have a WMASC bonding event, so just to become closer as a region, and that will be watching a movie at the Greenfield Cinemas, which is something to look forward to. And then we'll have spring conference the following week, and that will give us an opportunity to vote for next year's executive board on the regional level. So those are some fun things that we will be doing, and that's all I have.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Haley, and please thank the students who came in on Sunday to help welcome kids back. That's just remarkable work. Thank you.
Really, really
I
good.
will, thank you.
Thanks. And Brian, your report?
So I'm happy to announce that, or report rather, that all students in grades 7 through 12 were able to return to full-time in-person learning yesterday. At the middle school, 74% of students returned to campus, with 66% of high school students returned to full-time in-person learning. And as planned, after the vacation, a few additional students joined Hillcrest, meaning, in Sheffield, therefore putting the number of students at Sheffield who are in-person learners up over 90%. Of course, today is also the day that it's literally 3 minutes after I sent this report, I got the email from Governor Baker indicating that starting on Monday, May 10th, they're moving to phase 4, step 2. So at the May 11th school committee meeting, if there's anything that impacts us, I'll gather that information and bring it to the committee. The data in the area continues to go down, with Greenfield at 25, Montague at 15, and Orange at 22, being the 3 highest case counts in the last 14 days of the 11 towns in the area. A major concern that we have that we're doing some investigating into is we're going to have to do some work on the asbestos tiles at Hillcrest Elementary School, and I wanted to make the committee aware. And in fact, I've been asked Heath Cummings to come to the next meeting in case school committee has any questions. But we consulted with Abide Environmental Consulting on the current condition of the floors. They advised us that the actions that we're taking are sufficient for the current situation. On the date of their visit, it was pointed out to them that classroom number 2 had what Heath termed a dig mark in the tile that chipped up some smaller pieces. Abide advised that even this was not considered to be a fiber release episode, since the material is not considered friable and does not become airborne. He did advise that we should address the loose tiles as soon as possible so that it does not become worse. And by loose tiles, the consultant meant, across the building, not just in that one spot in the building. Abide indicated that we did not need to stop traffic in that area, and the exposed tiles have been glued down and covered in layers of wax, which was also part of the recommendation. They suggested a partial remediation of troubled loose areas of the tile and the mastic, and put down new vinyl composite tile in its place. And they recommended a full building abatement, since problems they anticipate are going to continue to get worse. So we'll be discussing both full and partial abatement options with the town. I believe we have a meeting scheduled next week. See what our potential timetables and budget availability are for potentially for both options, and we'll keep the school committee posted by asking Director Cummings to come to the next meeting. Okay. MCAS testing, the Office of Student Assistance at Bessie. As you know, in a previous report, I had indicated that MCAS administration for grades 3 through 8 is able to be done remotely. However, for students who would be taking the MCAS at any grade at the high school level, they will need to do that in person. Part of the reason for that is related to qualification for Adams Scholarship. But part of I did include in this report that the rationale for the decision that was made by the Board of Education, students in the class of 2022 have not had any opportunities to take or pass MCAS in ELA and mathematics through the cancellations of the test administration during the pandemic. As a result of this, the Board of Education granted a modification of the competency determination requirements for the class of 2022. In ELA and mathematics, it's already been granted in science. And basically what that means is that the district is able to certify that if a student earned full credit for a relevant course in the appropriate subject in the frameworks, that student will have met the competency determination for ELA and mathematics. An update on pool testing. At this particular point, we've collected more than 2,500 samples, with all of the samples returning negative. This week alone, we did more than 300 swabs. So far, all of those have come back negative. In terms of staff, there has been an increase as a result of the mailing, but keep the word out there that if people have not yet returned consent to participate in pool testing or the rapid testing, please continue to encourage parents to jump in, because the more people that we have, less likely it is the virus is even going to get into our building, and certainly it'll help us to keep it from spreading around. In terms of staffing, we're in the process of hiring additional facility staff. We still have a high school CNA position posted, a high school one-to-one paraprofessional posted. Just yesterday had to post for a one-to-one paraprofessional at Gill Elementary, and we are still seeking to hire a one-to-one paraprofessional at Hillcrest. I did also want to mention that the Six-Town Regional Planning Board, this Friday, I'll be meeting with one of the consultants and Pioneer Superintendent Jonathan Skagel, where we'll be talking about answering some questions for the consultant around vision and what we hope to be able to get out of potential super regional district in terms of educational offerings. I'll be providing the school committee with updates from the meetings that I attend. In the meantime, Bill is the school committee representative from Gill, serving on that committee. And the group was hoping to have representation from a Montague school committee member. So I'll be sharing the upcoming dates for the various meetings with the school committee by email, and if we could recruit somebody to come from Montague. Bill, and I'm not sure if you can answer this or not, but even if that could be rotating participation, is that a problem? So that it didn't necessarily have to be the same person all the time, that we at least had somebody from Montague who was in the know? I'm sorry, you're muted, Bill.
Yeah, I am muted as usual. I don't think that would necessarily be a problem. It's a little bit out of the norm in terms of consistency. But frankly, the study board is at the point now where in the next 2 months, we plan to do a lot of informational output to the community. You're directly involved in that, I believe, or you will be if you're not.
Yep.
And yeah, it would be helpful to have someone from Montague, because we're trying to get to this, what I would consider the second stage, is have some idea of where we plan to go with this come July 1, and providing some definition, especially to the community, both the schools and the larger community that we serve. So that's where the biggest help is, with having someone from Montague that has connections, or even if you don't have connections, you'll be connected to the study board. So that's a big gain. The other thing is that we really don't meet that often, maybe once a month right now. Certainly that's all we're going to meet with the consultants, just a few more times, and because their charge is up June 30. And then there's a lot more work to be done in the future. Right now, we're just trying to get to that point where we're looking at the future with some definition. That's about all I have to offer right now.
Thank you very much, Bill. And that's it, Jane, for my report for this meeting.
You're muted, Jane.
There I go. Any questions or comments for Brian on his report? All right, thank you. Moving on, business and operations report, Joanne?
Sure. The Gill lease, so we reviewed that back in December, and we gave you a copy of it at the last meeting. The town of Gill is bringing that to the select board on May 11th, or on yesterday. They brought it yesterday. So they expect that they're going to be voting it at their May 10th meeting. So we can bring it back to you for a vote either on May 11th or on May 25th. Should there be any changes at their May 10th meeting, we might want to wait until the 25th. We can at
Okay.
least put it on there as a possible agenda item on the 11th.
Okay, we can put it that way.
And I have the audit reports in your packet. And I know that's an agenda item later on in the agenda, so we can talk about it there.
Mhm.
Food services, bottom line is that next year we get to continue with our free breakfast and lunch at school. So we're going to be able to continue with the summer feeding program that we're using now. So that's going to run right through the end of next year.
Does that mean, before I forget, Joanne, does that mean back the way we did it last summer with delivering the food as opposed to the usual summer where children need to eat at the location?
Right, they're providing those flexibilities still, the
Mhm.
where they eat flexibilities. If there
Okay.
are parks programs happening, then we'll be delivering to the schools. But and I imagine that there will be some programs happening, some summer programs. So we'll be feeding those students, but we'll also be making deliveries around town like we did last year.
Okay, Cassie?
I just wanted to say that Montague Rec released their whole camp program today, just so
Oh,
that you know.
okay.
Yeah, so.
Pull
Okay,
that up.
thank you.
And we're also going to be having some programs at the school. So we'll definitely be feeding the students that are in the buildings and at the parks program. But our plan is to also make deliveries like we've been
Okay.
doing, probably
Thank
in bulk meals.
Okay.
And speaking of the bulk meals, during the school vacation, Justin McArdle and some volunteers packed and distributed 65 bags of groceries. And he didn't want to just have non-perishables this time, so we included some fruits and vegetables and milk and stuff as well. So, and that again was thanks to generous donations from both Dean's Beans and some anonymous donors that made donations to the schools for getting meals into the hands of students. So the cost for this time was approximately $3,600. So that'll be coming from that donation fund. Our hope is to do this again, another grocery delivery during the summer, either at the beginning of the summer or, right when school's ending or maybe in the midsummer. So that's the plan, to do this one more time with those funds. And the last thing I have is a request for a truck. So we have a dump truck budgeted in fiscal 22 in our budget. And we have some extra money in this year's budget because we had less school choice students going out, which means we have extra funds in the school choice expense line in the general fund budget. And so if we spend those monies this year, the excess school choice funds this year on the truck, that'll free up money next year. So we'll have it for other needs, like if we need additional staff, or if our school choice numbers go back up, or, it'll just free up the money that we budgeted for that truck. In addition, we had talked, I guess it was a couple months ago now, about purchasing the food service vans. And so we need to transfer money to cover the cost that wasn't covered by the grant. So we have the grant is about 79,000, I believe, and these grants are going to cost about 96,000 for 2 vans. So the transfer in your packet for approval is moving money from our school choice tuition lines into our vehicle replacement lines for the purchase of the dump truck and to cover the additional balance of that refrigerator van.
Okay, and since that is not anywhere else on our agenda, would you like the vote now?
Sure.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve those 2 transfers.
So moved.
Okay, Mike, I think was first, and was Heather second? Okay, thank you, Mike and Heather. All those in favor? Looks unanimous, thank you.
Okay, so I'll have a copy of that transfer in the business office for you to sign, Jane.
Yes, I will do that.
And that's all I have for you today.
Okay, any question or comment for Joanne? All right, thank you. Under school committee reports, we just have the 2 accounts payable warrants that we need to vote and approve this evening. The first is number 3129 dated 4/28/21 in the amount of $148,878.80. The second is accounts payable 3130, also the same date, in the amount of $55,135.63. If it's acceptable, I'll entertain a motion to approve them together.
Move.
Okay, Bill, thank you.
Haley, second.
Thank you, and Haley seconded. All those in favor? Okay, that looks unanimous. Thank you. Moving on to business. Brian, A is review and discussion of school reopening plans. Anything else in that area?
No, I don't have anything else in that area other than I just wanted to add a piece, publicly at the school committee meeting that numbers are going down. The state is relaxing requirements, relaxed the travel restriction. We're seeing mask wearing again become more heavily politicized. And the thing for everybody to keep in mind is that schools are not a place where we're going to relax our requirements, because we need to keep everybody safe. The advantage is we can have the windows a lot more open now. We should have really amazing airflow, and that will be helpful. But we really need to stay vigilant as a community, and in particular at the secondary level, making sure that our kids are helping each other with the social distancing, which is a bigger concern really than mask wearing at that level. And I just need for the committee to be aware that in particular, we're not going to become complacent. We really still have to go through this, at least through the remainder of this school year, with a high level of vigilance against the virus.
Thank you. Okay, and the next item, a discussion about the Melanson Heath financial audit. Joanne included it in our packet for the second time, so people had a chance to review it. And anything you'd like to point out in it, Joanne, before we ask for questions and comments?
There's a few different reports, but one of the big numbers that you see in there is for our OPEB liability, which is our unfunded long-term liability. So on page 13 of the financial statements, you can see that, and that number runs through several of the financial reports. So on a couple different pages. 13 shows it lumped in together with a couple other things. It's $50 million. So that is a gigantic number. And that makes our position look bad. So our buildings are worth about 20 million, and then we have this huge debt for future liabilities. So that's just one of the things that makes the numbers look horrible, but I wanted to point that out. And that's a different report. It's a different audit that we have done every year that projects what those numbers are. So we give that report to Melanson Heath. They plug the number into our audit.
Mm-hmm. And any more information we might need about that large amount of money that is sitting there, not sitting there, I guess?
Well, a lot of schools, a lot of districts, a lot of towns, they put money into that every single year to try to get that number down. So for instance, the town of Montague, the retirement board with the town of Montague, and a lot of retirement systems throughout the state, they collect money from all of the towns and all the participants. They put money aside to pay for the retirement piece. What we have is the health insurance piece. So right now, you see it in our budget every year. I think it's probably 1.5 million, maybe something in that range for retiree health insurance. And with our percentages at 90% for active for retirees on some of our plans, that really adds up to huge numbers. Most places don't keep the 90% for HMO plans. I think ours are 90%, 85 and 75, something like that. But the 90% is our most popular plan. And so, that really gets expensive. Now, one of the things that has happened with GIC is there are there's only one HMO supplement plan for Medicare supplement plans. There's only one available on an HMO. And so the rest of them are indemnity plans, and they're at 75%. So that's helping us because more and more retirees are going to the Medicare supplement plans, where years ago when retirees had not paid into Medicare, they never had to go to the Medicare supplement plan. So there are some potential future savings for the retiree insurance. But, anybody that retires from the district, even if they've spent just a couple of years here, if they're retiring from Mass Teachers Retirement or a town retirement system, they retire on our health insurance and they receive our health insurance for life, or they can receive it for life. So that gets really expensive if we have people that are not, lifers here with us. They come to us out of college and then they retire from us. That's not all of the people that we have, but that's a big number. We see it in our budget and we see it in our financial report. So just something to think about. Our retirement percentage for the health insurance it makes it difficult to keep the budget flat, and with a $50,000 $50,000 unfunded liability, it makes our books look kind of bad too.
Is it recommended that a district would set up a kind of a stabilization in that area?
Districts have set that up. We would need approval of the towns and the town meeting, I believe, in order to set up a stabilization account for OPEB. And I think it would get funded through our budget. So, we would put more money into that fund in our budget process. And then the towns would also approve that, sort of like they do our capital budget. I think it would be a separate approval line. But I could get more information on that if you would like.
Well, I just didn't know, if we should be, getting some more information. Anyone have a theory about that? Mike?
Yeah. What would be the difference between fulfilling this obligation, having this money set aside, and what we do now? Right now, we pay it every year out of our budget.
Right.
And my understanding, layperson, is they want us to have it set aside ahead of time. Basically, this is the same program that has killed the USPS, because they required the Postal Service to have all of their OPEB up front, and now they can't do business because they can't afford it. So that it's a conflict between accounting standards and actual business practices. So I mean, basically, it's a government issue. They're going to have to figure it out, because where are we going to get $50 million from?
Right.
Except that we'll be paying it out year after year. The amount's going to go up, but it comes out of our yearly budget, as opposed to out of a fund that we would have to fund basically out of our budget.
Right.
So putting aside any of that money means fewer teachers, et cetera, et cetera. It's and I don't pretend to understand it. I'm just saying it's a problem that the system has set up, and the system needs to figure it out. So I'm not, all I'm saying is I'm not in favor of putting a couple $1 million aside every year,
Right.
personally, for
Oh,
doing
right.
that.
Right. I understand. That's why I asked. I mean, I never have quite understood either. It's not that we owe the $50 million this.
Oh, we lost you, Jane.
Am I back?
Yep.
My connection had an issue there. I agree with Mike. I'm not too sure why they keep making us put that amount there just to look annoying, I guess. I'm not sure why. I just guess I wish I knew more about why they want to put it there that way.
Yeah, I think it's to give us an idea that this is out there. This is in our future, and that number's going to grow. It's going to get bigger. And I agree with you, Mike, that if we try to put that money away now, we're taking money away from us now instead of waiting till the future to pay the future expenses. It's we certainly don't have a lot of extra money to set aside for a future expense that we're going to have.
Right.
Hopefully in the future, we will have that money to pay, as part of our budget.
Right.
So.
All right, thanks. I was just curious about that. It always occurs to me. Anyone else have any questions or comments for Joanne about the audit? I think, again, the fact that there were no findings this time is always excellent. I think you're doing a good job keeping us on the straight and narrow, as it were. Thank you.
Yeah,
And this
welcome.
is not something we necessarily have to vote on. We
Nope.
simply need to accept it, which we have done. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Brian, I think the next one would be you, review and potential vote on transportation exception.
Yeah, so I received a request from a parent to follow the protocol to consider an exception for transportation. The individual lives just inside the 1.5 mile radius from the school, and their student happens to walk in an area on Main Road from Gill that's about 1.2 miles from the school, where there's no sidewalks and there's very little space between Main Road and the guardrails. In addition, at this particular point in the road, even though the speed limit is 35 miles an hour, those are the highest traffic points typically of the day. And so I asked Chief Redmond to do an analysis and give his opinion, and he provided a letter for us. And I'm supportive of his recommendation to allow this student to take district transportation, given the safety concern. And I'm sorry, I included his letter in the school committee packet.
Yes, the letter is in the packet, and in the transportation policy, this decision falls to the school committee. So it will be something that we will need to decide. Anyone have any questions or comments about it? Haley?
Yeah, I walk on Main Road in Gill, and I would not recommend it for my children. I'm always ready to dive over the guardrail. So there are a lot of bends and blind curves. So I would support this.
Thank you. Mike?
Thanks. And I don't disagree with any of that. I'm concerned about setting a precedent. But it would just be helpful also to know what the cost is going to be. There is a cost associated, and it's not my suggestion that this poor youngster be saddled with that or be associated with it. But it is important that the community understand.
We lost you there a little bit, Mike, right at the end.
Oh, okay, we lost you at the end, Mike, but I think we got the gist of it.
Yeah.
Cassie?
I just wanted to comment that this is not the first time that we've had a family ask for an exception to the busing, but I think it's important, just for transparency's sake, to know that, you know, in this case and in the past, we've always looked towards the local law enforcement to sort of help guide us in whether or not it's safe. I know that a couple of years ago, there were some issues around the elementary schools in Turners, but there were sidewalks available, and there, you know, there were other things like that to help. So I think in this case with Chief Redmond, you know, writing the letter and suggesting that, you know, we accept it, that we should. But to back up what Mike said, I do think it's important to know what the cost is, just so that we know.
Okay, is that information you might have, Joanne, or?
Yes, I don't have an exact number, but the cost would be loss of reimbursement next year. So if the cost for a bus, I can't remember the exact cost, but it's about $400 a day. And then we would divide that by the number of students that are on the bus, right? For elementary and for secondary. So we can say there are 40 kids. So each student, each day costs $10. And then if our reimbursement is 75%, that means we lose $7.50 a day for the number of days the student's on the bus, in easy math. So if the student's on the bus for 40 days, then it costs $400.
Cassie?
I'm just curious, do we know what grade this student's in? I'm just thinking, was it mentioned? Did I miss that? Because eventually we're gonna, if they stay in the district, we'd be, which of course they will, we'd be busing them anyway in a few years. So that's a thought also.
Yeah, I withheld that information just to protect the privacy.
Oh, that's fine. I was just, I mean, it's not going to be a permanent loss.
Right.
You know.
True, right. Once the child gets to middle school age, then it's definitely far enough. Yeah. Okay, any other questions or comments about the appeal?
I just want to correct my math. So it would cost about $300 for 40 days. That would be the loss of reimbursement next year for one student. An estimate.
Okay.
I just wanted to add, as I've done in the past, around this topic when we discussed it a few meetings ago, that the lack of sidewalks throughout Gill have been an issue in the past. And when I was previously in this position, I know we waived the distance limit quite a lot because of that. So I'm in sympathy with what the parent is requesting, and I agree with our chief of police. And I would hope that we can bus more kids, but that's another day.
Anyone else? In that case, I will entertain a motion to approve the transportation exception.
I'll move it.
Bill, thank you.
I'll second, Haley.
Haley, thank you.
She means to say all in favor.
All in favor? We lost you, Jane.
Okay, thank you. Am I back?
You're back.
A lot of instability here tonight. Sorry.
Bill translated for you.
Thanks. Somebody's got to. Okay, thank you. So that passed. Please notify the family, Brian.
Yep, I will do so tomorrow and contact the bus company.
I think we lost Jane again. So Brian, next on the agenda is your evaluation, discussion on your superintendent's evaluation. Jane, are you back?
I am, thank you.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's good. You read my mind. Perfect.
So yeah, I didn't know what the committee wanted to do in terms of a timeline and what you need for materials. Sabrina did share the information with me after the last meeting, but I'm just looking for an idea of what the committee would like to do in terms of getting information to the committee and how you go about doing that.
Yes, we need to determine when we would like Brian to present his data and when we would like to fill out the form that we so enjoy filling out. I know that is not, there is not a hard and fast rule about when that needs to be done during the school year. We have done it at different points, different years. Anyone have a suggestion? Cassie?
I do. I remember when I first came on, I think we did Michael's evaluation like 2 weeks after I'd been elected. So I hadn't really worked with him, and all of a sudden I had to do an evaluation on him. I think that, you know, seeing that Jen and Haley are going to be leaving us in June, I would love if we could do it before they leave, just because I think that, you know, I don't know if their seats will be filled, but, you know, they've been on the committee for 3 years and they've worked with Brian the last year. And so I think that I would be in favor of that. I don't know if that's too rushed, but.
Well, I guess that probably is a good question to ask. Right, we have until June 22nd because that's when Montague is voting. So the change in membership won't happen until after that. So if that's reasonable to folks, we can sort of back into the dates. Okay, does that sound good? Looks like they're all approving of something.
I just don't want them to, I don't want to let them off the hook.
I just think that wouldn't be fair at all. They would feel so left out. You're right, Cassie. It's considerate of you. So we're in April. So I guess we'd best present some information in May, and then we need to get the form out to and set a date to have it turned in, and then we need to discuss it at a meeting, which would probably be, looks like it would be at least by
The first meeting of June?
yes.
If I were to do prepare for the second meeting of May, would that make sense?
Does for me.
Did that give people enough time? Are we thinking that's okay? Okay, it looks good, Brian.
Okay, thank you.
The form to fill out is already predetermined, right?
Well, I think it was slightly adjusted last year. It is predetermined, right? And
So it could be handed out for us to have, well, before we even get the data, just to kind of think about.
I don't see why not. Absolutely, I think that's a great suggestion. It is a rather cumbersome form, even in the new improved form. It really hasn't changed a lot. That sounds great. And in that case, we can, you know, we can hand the form out. The only admonishment would be, it's critical that no one on the committee discusses anything about the form or the superintendent's work outside of an open meeting. There are very strict rules about that. So that has to be the understanding, that nothing gets discussed outside of the public meetings. If that's acceptable and clear, we certainly, and I mean, the form is available online at some point somewhere, I'm sure. So if people would like to have it ahead of time, we can certainly do that.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anything else about that topic? The next item on the agenda is discussion and potential vote to approve the 2021-2022 school year calendar, which is included in the email that Brian sent today. There was a paper copy last time. Could you maybe just tell us, Brian, to begin with, are there any major changes since we saw it last time?
Yeah, there are one, two, three major, what I would classify as being significant changes. The first one being that we reviewed this again with our next admin team meeting was yesterday. So coming out of the first reading, we took a look at it and we liked the idea because we start early of doing a 4-day Labor Day weekend. So we scheduled that way the students will have a 2-day week, a 2-day week, and a 4-day week. And then they would have a normal school week thereafter, so that students would come back slowly. In addition to the fact that post-pandemic, we were a little bit concerned about potentially low attendance on the Friday before Labor Day weekend. So if we have the day off, then everybody can ease themselves back into a school year after the summer. I made the recommendation that we move the first professional development day away from September 15th so that we could have one normal school week that early on without a disruption. We just moved that out 1 week. I also brought the recommendation that I think came from Haley to consider December 23rd as a no school day. And so that's integrated into this calendar because the holiday vacation is short, the way it's set on the calendar. So that extends the vacation a little bit. And then so those are two of the three major changes. And then the third major change is I had mentioned we had initially discussed as an administrative team, need to have up to 2 days per month for half days. And when we took a look at the calendar as an administrative team, we were able to identify 4 additional days, not for professional development, but for data analysis and using that data to respond to make improvements in instruction, especially a year out from the pandemic and dealing with learning loss. And the dates that we identified were December 22nd, which makes that a short week for students. Staff will have to stay there, but they have the following day off. December 22nd, January 27th, February 16th, and March 23rd as the 4 additional days. Everything else is the same, but those are just additional early release days. And I put them on the calendar as data days, district-wide.
Okay, thank you. That helps if we know that we're looking at those particular changes.
And then everything else is just having moved the days around, like at the end of the school year, moving back the turnaround day to Friday, January 21st, as it would have been in a normal school year.
So we have the new version in front of us. If people feel comfortable voting it at this meeting, we certainly.
You skipped out again, Jane.
Jane, I think we lost you. You're not back yet. I just wanted to make a comment, Brian, if that's okay.
Yep.
I just think that it is so awesome that there are some days reserved for analyzing the data, because I just think, there's PD requirements, obviously, but so often data is collected and not analyzed, or there's not enough time to do it. And I think coming out of a year like this, it's going to be so critical that there's actually time set aside to analyze that data. So I just want to give you kudos for you and the admin team for thinking about how important that is to build that into the schedule.
Yeah, I wish I could take credit for it, but really it's the principals and Ann and Christine, who really threw out the idea of needing that additional time in particular for next year. So.
Okay, so kudos to them, not you, but,
but
I just wanted to add
thank you
that.
on their behalf. Yep.
Yeah, just pass it on. Good, good. Any other questions or comments? No, I think it's really thoughtfully approached. I think a couple of the things that came up were things that people did notice the last time. So I think this is looking good in terms of next year's calendar. Are people thinking they would be able to vote it this time? Cassie?
I'd make a motion to approve this calendar if everyone is okay with voting it tonight.
Okay, we have a
Seconded.
motion. Do we have a second? Did I hear Mike?
No,
Mike, Bill, whole bunch of them.
one
Okay.
minute.
Right next to each other. Okay, Bill seconded. Any other discussion about it? Okay, all those in favor? Looks like we have it unanimously. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And thank you for your input that I was able to bring back to the team from the
Yes,
last.
and thank everyone again. Good job working on, it as a group. Great. Okay, the next item is issues of equity.
I don't have anything to add here other than we have submitted the survey that I discussed at the last meeting that's being done by the Communities That Care Coalition. And I just wanted to let the committee know that CTC notified us today that they're extending the deadline for completion until May 7th, which is helpful. It'll hopefully increase the number of staff and admin team that fill out the survey, and that we should be getting a district report back probably a little bit more than a month after. So we should get it back before summer planning time, which will be helpful. And then the next agenda item, Director of Teaching and Learning, Christine Limoges, will take that as she's going to give us some information about the work that's being done to address pandemic learning loss. So hopefully she's still there. She is. Great.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Christine. Thank you.
Sure. So I'm happy to report that our April 4-day spring break was a huge success. We had 38 students join us from all 3 elementary schools, K to 5. We provided transportation, and also the charge was free for our parents, which was wonderful, and they all had a really incredible time. We're also looking in our planning right now to provide elementary pre-K to 5 summer programming, and we're going to do an academic math and ELA in the morning. In the afternoon, we're going to have enrichment. So we're going to have Music of Franklin. 21st Century is going to be providing some sort of programming. And we're also going to do Little Scholars that we did in the April break. They did a few things like engineering, looking at ecosystems, just some science, really just some fun enrichment activities that they really enjoyed. We're also going to extend this to the middle schoolers through Apex Learning. So again, in the morning, they will do not credit recovery, but it's a tutorial where they'll be taking a diagnostic, and they'll be looking at where the skills and the gaps that they need to make up for those classes that they're failing. The afternoon, we're going to provide 3 hours, 2 to 3 hours. Everything's just kind of, we're still in the planning stage, but some enrichment for our middle schoolers. So that's going to be incredible to have. And there's a couple things, there's a fitness club, designing the runway, future entrepreneurs. Those are a few of the activities that they might choose from. And then also we'll do Apex learning for credit recovery for the high school students. So again, we're going to be providing transportation. There'll be hopefully no fee to parents for this programming. And we're working really hard on getting everything aligned, and hopefully we'll present to the public in a week or so what our offerings, and then we'll get going with posting. Staff was posted for summer school today. Diane put that out. So we've already heard from a couple of our staff members, so that's awesome. So yeah, we're really excited to offer this, and I'll report back later on in the school year. Any questions?
Thank you. Anyone?
Haley?
Haley.
Christine, maybe you said this, but I didn't hear it. Is this available to all students, or is it only students who need recovery?
So we're going to offer it to the whole district. We're not sure how many staff members we can get to fill the positions in the classrooms, but we want to be inclusive to all our students in Gill-Montague. Thanks, Haley.
Jennifer?
So I know Park and Rec and some, the other surrounding camps and things that are putting out their schedules, and a lot of them are not doing before and after care. Our local Park and Rec says they are, but many of the others are not. So that's a concern for parents, being able to have their children participate and make it work for them to get where they need to go. So just wondering if you know what the hours are going to be, just because parents are kind of starting to look for those things, and if we can give them a heads up, they might wait for our info.
Yes, thanks, Jennifer. Yeah, we're going to be running the program 9 to 3 for the elementary, and I believe 8 to 2 for middle school. So like I said, we'll be getting that out within the next week to parents, and we're also working with Parks and Rec to offer some scholarships to our students at Gill-Montague as well. So we'll have a number. We're meeting with John. Diane and I are meeting with him later this week. So we have a lot in the works.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else?
I just wanted to say thank you to Christine, Ann Ellis, Melissa Petrot, Lisa Desjardins, Tony Menard, Tom Gaffigan, and Sarah Bernstein for all their hard work in trying to pick up the pieces of a really challenging year and piece something together that's going to be hopefully exciting for students this summer.
Thank you. Cassie?
This is a little bit off topic about the summer program, and maybe it should be another agenda item, but we mentioned last meeting that Sheffield just got a science teacher who I actually know and is absolutely amazing. Could we have an update at some point about how that's going? Because it's like a school-wide, from what I understand, like STEM program. So obviously maybe that might be another agenda item, but just to kind of plant that seed, I would love to hear more about it because I think it's super exciting.
So yeah, that is Cassie. We're really happy to have her on board. So I can certainly get in touch with her and report back the next meeting if you'd like.
That'd be awesome. There's so many exciting things happening. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Christine. Diane?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to what Christine said. It's been really exciting planning, and one of the things that I've appreciated this year, oftentimes in my experience in districts in public education, pre-pandemic days, was that most kids who came to summer school were basically for kids who had failed a class, or for kids who have IEP services that address sort of a substantial regression in recoupment. So many of our students with IEPs don't qualify for summer services because of that standard of regression. And so the idea that we are promoting an inclusive program, that we're looking at making this opportunity available for all of our students, for having our special education students as much as possible be side-by-side learners with our general education students who are coming in for the summer, that there's a full day program versus a services only model, which oftentimes makes it not very attractive or logistically possible for our families when they're having to make choices between, full day arrangements or most of a day arrangement versus, coming in for reading service 3 days a week for 45 minutes. So, and the collaboration again amongst administrators on the planning of this. And we're also doing some kind of out of the box thinking around, the enrichment programming, but also trying to really, for students who are not in summer services, to really look at even doing some regular engagement for those families. So some families may say, hey, look, my kid's going to basketball camp, or my kid's doing X, Y, and Z, going to spend a month in Maine with the grandparents, or whatever the case may be. But we want to try to see if we can even do some outreach to those families. One of the feedback that I received from some of the teachers is last year, even though we had a remote summer special education program, some of our students just really were very invested in the communications that they had with staff over the summer. So getting a note, getting, a remind text message saying, hey, I was thinking about you. So really looking at who do we have in our programs, how are we supporting students, and who's not in our program, and how are we also maintaining some connections with those families so that, on a still emotional and academic level, our students will be better positioned to start the next school year. And so it's been exciting. It's kind of keeping me awake at night because my mind just doesn't turn off, because it's just exciting work. Christine and I are excited about it. The principals have been very excited. And I think the plan as it's coming together feels so much more inclusive and district-wide than prior experience. And unfortunately, it took a pandemic to get us to this point. But it's just been fun to do the planning, and it's really fun and exciting to just see the excitement that the kids had last week at the Little Scholars program, and continuing those extension activities. So yes, math and the reading and writing and arithmetic, but also doing cool projects. And I think that's I think that we're going to have a lot of buy-in. And so I'm happy to report out with my colleagues tonight on just the thinking, and stay tuned, because there'll be more information to come.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Many, many thanks. I need to reinforce that for Christine and Diane and all the administrators that have been working on this. It does sound so much more inclusive and so much more varied than programs that I've seen and heard about in the summer. And I think it is a really important step to take, and maybe getting there in this unusual year will help us stay there in the future. I think being able to look at the positives, I know I've heard a lot of positive feedback about the April program. It was very well received. So thank you all. Great. The next item on the agenda is the school committee needs to approve the election warrant. That is included as the last page in your packet. I know we approved the ballot, but now the committee needs to approve the warrant. And after we approve it, we will all need to go into the main offices and sign 3 copies, I believe, Sabrina?
Yes, that's correct.
Yes, there'll be 3 copies, and Sabrina will leave them on the desk outside her office. So we can step in, and we will all need to sign them, hopefully within the next couple of days. That would be great if we could. So the warrant is before us. I will entertain a motion to approve it.
So
I'll
moved.
move it.
Okay, I think I got Haley, and was it Bill?
Yeah.
Okay, Haley and Bill. Any other questions or comments about the warrant? That's just something that needs to be posted in terms of where voting takes place in each of the towns, and the time and the date.
Will it be available tomorrow?
Yes.
Great.
Okay, it will be available. Thank you. Good question. Okay, all those in favor? Looks like we have it unanimously. Thank you. And we do not need to approve any particular minutes at this time. Any agenda requests, please funnel them to Cassie, Brian, or myself. We usually do agenda planning on the Tuesday of the week before the next meeting, occasionally on the Monday. So anytime you have an idea, let us know. Our next scheduled meeting will be May 11th at 6:30. If there is to be an executive session, it'll be scheduled ahead of that, probably 6. Anything else before we adjourn?
So
Okay.
moved.
Okay.
Everybody.
Mike has moved. Do we have a second?
Sure.
You can't go till it's official. All those in favor? All right. Thank you, everyone.
Night, Cassie.
Good night.
Night.